Today I'm going to go over different potting mixes and soils you can buy. And are they worth putting out extra money for the one that says it's better? And the other thing I want you to know as you look over these soils, you may be set up to fail. And if you're unaware of it, that is why your plants stop growing before they give you food. So let's make you a better gardener so you know more than them. Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California. Today I'm going to talk about soil. Potting mix is what I really want to talk about because a lot of you may not understand what's actually going on with these. Now this I've never used before. It's the first time opening it, looking at it. This one's about $4 more than their other brand, the cheaper one. Now let's talk about how many there are. Here's the issue. There are so many different types of potting mix you can get. Now, garden soil is not the same as potting mix. Garden soil doesn't have any wetting agents, no vermiculite or perlite. It's supposed to get the dampness from the ground. It's just something to put on your soil to make it fluffy and drain good. That's for outside in the ground. This is for container gardening, and this one is generally called potting mix. Now, is it better? Yes, it drains well. It helps hold a little bit of water. You know what? I'll show you my secret in a minute after we go through all this and how you can do it really cheap. We're going to dive into these bags, by the way, literally. So many of you have come to me and say, my squash is growing, everything's great, and then the plant suddenly stops. Or my watermelons were growing, or my corn, or my tomatoes or peppers, and they stop. Well, here's the thing. If you read the bag carefully, this will tell you feeds up to 6 months. This one says the same thing. So they both feed up to 6 months. Both of these basically are forest matter, which would be leaves, whatever they broke down, anything that would grow basically is what it was, and it's broken down. Now this one, they add a little bit of peat moss and a few other things. This one, a little bit. This one's supposed to be better. You know what? Let's look at the soil, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you why. When so many of you come to me and say, what happened? Everything was going good and it stopped. Well, it wasn't your fault. You basically were led into this where you could fail because of the companies and not being aware of what you can do and not even need the feed that's in there. Let's go look at the soil and we'll come back and finish this off. So let's see what it's got in there. Okay, you know what? Looks kind of like a dried up leaves and twigs and kind of sawdusty. This is the cheaper brand, about $8, but it can change prices. And let's take a look at this one. I have never looked inside. This is the one that costs about $4 more, same size. It's supposed to be better. It's supposed to hold more water. It doesn't have any more plant food added to it. So let's take a look. And you tell me what you think. Is it going to be worth the $4? It's fluffier. It still has your wood chips in there from your trees and looks the same. I don't think it has any more perlite in there compared to the yellow bag. It's supposed to have peat moss in there. Little fluffier, kind of soft. Now the good thing is these are both very affordable. Looks pretty good. And that's important. But please, what I don't want you to do is get the cheapest. There used to be some off-brand, really cheap bags at the dollar stores and even some of the grocery stores, and those turned out to be a disaster for me. But we'll get more into that later. Now this is from the yellow bag, and it's kind of a little drier, which we can always add water in there. It's kind of got lumps, but we can break that up. The bag may have been sitting for a while somewhere, but no big deal. So let's kind of look through this again. See, still has wood chips, but how much does it have? Will it make a big difference? Oh, and she's investigating too. She wants to know. She always wants to know. Zoe says, what's in there? What are you doing? Now, I think once you watch this, you're going to analyze and understand potting mix better than you ever have before. Now, to the right is the yellow bag, and to the left in the gray bowl is the blue bag. Looking at it, maybe it's a little finer. Maybe they let it break down more, or maybe they sifted it a little bit more. So we're going to take this paper cup. It's 6 ounces. I've been using this, for transplants on a lot of seedlings I'm doing right now. And we're going to sift it with 1/4 inch wire. Just gonna sift out and see what's in there. Now what we're gonna do is fluff it up. Remember, we started with 6 ounces, so theoretically it all should go back in 1 cup. All right, so we've got, let's say, about a half a cup of big chunks. Now let's see how much we have as far as finer soil or compost here. Let's see what we've got now. So we've got that, which is about a half a cup. And what do we end up with here? And I'm going to tell you how we can use this no matter which soil you use, and it won't make a difference, but that'll be in a few minutes. So let's see, let's get it all in there, and that's almost the top. Why? Because it fluffed up. It will compress as we're growing in it, as it gets wet, but that's just the way it works when you sift it. Sometimes bags look so big, you bring it home, you dump it in a pot, and boom, it looks like you have no soil. Now let's do the blue bag. I'm packing it in, and now we're going to go ahead, 1/4-inch wire, same strainer. We're going to strain, strain, strain. Still have quite a few chunks in there. Look at that. But do we have as much? I mean, is it really that much better? Let's take a look and see if it's really worth spending the extra $4. Now, there is quite a bit less. If you compare it, look at that. Close, but there is less. All right, we'll give them that credit. Oh, I want you to see this. Now, what are all these little pearls or pill-like items in your soil? They're polymer pellets. And what's in there? That's your plant food. That is what's been added to both of these bags. And theoretically, they're supposed to last 6 months. And as you water and take care of your plants, the plants will draw from them, but they do dissolve. Sometimes they don't. I have found them a year later still sitting in there. Now, what I think they've actually done is they sift through when they're going to sell it, and then they take out the larger chunks, and then they put it back. So it's all pre-measured. In other words, depending on which mix they're bagging that day, they have a recipe. And that is my thought. Now, to me, it's very close. I've been using the yellow bag, and what I do is when I'm doing young plants or seedlings, I sift it, I put the chunks on the bottom or in another pot, and I use the finer part for the top for the young seedlings. Is that necessary? Really, it isn't, but that's the way I do it a lot of times. And both of them have the plant food. There's the plant food. So I don't see anything different that way. So it will depend on what you want to buy. Will I buy the blue bag again? I don't know. It might depend on the price, but either one to me will work. So now we've looked at these 2 soils, knowing there's many different types. Now, why do people gravitate to these? Well, it's a name brand. They have been reliable. If you get the ones that are really cheap sometimes, I've actually had them where they were toxic and you couldn't grow anything because, let's say, they came off of a golf course and they had some sort of herbicide in there that was not going to break down for 6 months. I actually bagged some of those up and then I dumped them in a tote because we couldn't use it. Instead of throwing it out, 2 years till I could grow in it. I've never had that problem with these. So these, I'm sure they test their soil and they grow good. These are like, let's just say, well, we know the prices because it changes a lot, but this one is $4 more than this one. You're looking at a bag for anywhere between $12 and $15. This one would be about $4 more than that, where you can get organic type of soil, but now you're looking at bags that are 20, 30, 40. Some of them were even more than that, and that's when it gets expensive to start growing your vegetables. Because granted, a lot of us just don't have the money to buy all that, and do we need it? I say no, but you have to buy what you need. Having plant food in here, you're using the plant food. This is up to 6 months, which means it could last 5 months, 4 months, 3 months, 2 months. It depends on what you're putting in there. You put a pepper in there that's not too much of a heavy feeder, it might almost get to the 6 months, maybe. You put, let's say, a tomato in there, a little bit heavier feeder, you probably will get closer to 4 months. You put a zucchini in here, a squash, a watermelon. Boy, it can pull everything out of there in 2 months because certain plants feed heavier. Now, I've got so many videos on how we can do this on the free, but you know I do compost tea and I do my own soil as far as making compost. And when you do that, you are adding in nature's plant food. But if you want, you would have to go back to the companies and start buying the plant food that they injected in here in those little plastic pill things. And once those are gone, there's no more plant food. You basically have sawdust. So once you understand that, you can work that out on your own by simply making compost tea or adding in, let's say, mulch, a good mulch on the top. And when you water the plants, it will leach down inside. I think once we understand what is going on with potting mix, we're not going to get surprised because we were set up to fail. You're going to understand that this is actually growing so well in the beginning because of the plant food. When you get a seed starter for your seeds, there generally is no plant food in it. It's just a medium for you to start your seedlings. I will tell you, I use this, I sift it, and I start all my seeds that do really well, even the ones you know how I do in Tool. Got videos on that. Pull that out, separate these and plant these. These are peppers. You can put them in paper cups. Why paper cups? Again, videos on how to do it because we can get this planted without disturbing any roots at all, straight into the ground. And then of course the 2-cup system. When you want to have this one drain and this one not, you can leave a little water. I use this one. And you can sift it and put the heavier stuff on the bottom and the finer stuff on top. And even for plain old pots where I'm growing peppers and different flowers in here. What did you think? Which one are you going to buy? I don't know if I'll go back and buy this one again. Little finer maybe, but you know what? You wet that bag if you're not using it all and maybe throw some leaves in there and it will break down even more by the time you go back. Or this one, it'll even get finer because a lot of these are dry. Don't throw them away if you've got them that's over a year old. Just add some water to the bag and seal it up and it will rehydrate because sometimes they do come dry. One more thing. As far as the perlite or vermiculite, this is pure clay kitty litter I get from Walmart. They're like $5-6 a bag. This will last you forever. I literally throw a handful into my soil. This holds water, and this will help keep your plants hydrated, especially as the weather starts to warm up, because each little tiny nugget in there of clay will hold a little bit of water, and then, let me put this out of the way, it will add water to your soil by the roots getting there and saying, oh, there's no water, you didn't water me today, but it will find that little tiny piece of gravel and it's damp and it can wrap its little roots around it and suck the water out of it. So that can be helpful. And remember, too much may not be good, so just add in a little bit. And there's a way to mix it up if you're doing succulents as well. A lot of people now use this. I started this years ago and I have found a lot more people got into it and they've got all different ways of doing it. I use it for succulents like I did in my old videos as well as my regular plants. But as far as the perlite, vermiculite, they looked really equal. So maybe this was just broken down a little more, sifted a little better before they packed it because it was a little fluffier. But now you know which one you may want to plant your plants in because you've got an idea. And for us, I'm not spending $30, $40, $50, $60 on soil when nature does it for free around me, and I know how to do that. So it is really good to go ahead and grab some soil where you're going to plant it into, and that gets everything started so the plants will be already acclimated. Once you transplant them, like I take these out and put them in a bigger pot, sometimes you'll have a little bit of your native soil in there, soil that's coming from your own containers already if you're not using these as full bags, and I don't. It would be too costly for me. And then anything in there, the microbes and everything already be in there, and your plant will be accustomed to it. So it really works out well when transplanting. So I'm going to be really reading through your comments. What do you think on all this? I'm really anxious to see what you have to say. I hope I've given you some ideas on all that. And with that, have a wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. And please grow something. Bye-bye. You're going to have pepper soon. You need to get in another pot. Look at that.